raise your hands if you guys have ever had stitches. Myself as well has had 2 stitches, and I wasn't even 24 hours old. So today I'm going to tell you a little about being tongue-tied and everything about it. So tongue-tied is a life event, especially for babies that are first born. It actually happened to me when I was born. It happened to my son, my second son. A little story about it: when I interviewed my mom for this, she told me that the doctor came in the next day after me being born, and he goes, "Do you hear that baby crying in the other room?" And my mom's like, "Yes." "Well, that's your baby," he said. So come to find out that I was tongue-tied, and they did a little procedure for me. So you're all probably asking yourself, what is tongue-tied? How do you get it? Is it contagious? Is it hereditary? Tongue-tied is a problem presented at birth. It happens when the tissue that attaches the tongue to the bottom of your mouth, also known as the lingual frenulum, is too short, so it limits the movement of your tongue, so it's not contagious. Dr. Sigrid Nelson from Alina Clinic here in town told me that she can't be certain that it's hereditary, but since that myself and my son both had it, that it's a good possibility. Growing up, knowing that I was tongue-tied as a baby, every first parent, you look over your kids, you want to make sure that they're perfect. Well, knowing that I was tongue-tied with my second kid, I kind of noticed that he wasn't latching on, he just wasn't really moving his tongue all that much. So knowing that the signs and symptoms to look for it, I was able to kind of self-diagnose him. So at his 1-month checkup, I brought him in and said, "I think he's tongue-tied." And my doctor was like, "No way." And then she's like, "Oh, let me get my colleague." So I'm here today to hopefully tell you how you can do the same. I have 3 main points on how to tell if your child or grandchild or anyone in your family member or friends have a baby with tongue-tied. The first main point would be what to look for. A second main point is what you can do for them. And the third main point would be the aftercare and what to expect. So my first main point is, what are the symptoms? Some kids don't have symptoms, and the actual tissue will stretch as they grow, so they don't even have a problem. But as they get older, they can also just adapt to it, not even knowing that it's a problem. So a sign would be troubles latching to the mother's breast for feeding, and actually babies that bottle feed don't have this big of a problem because the nipple's easier to suck on than it would be for a mother's breast. When they get a little bit older, the gaps and spaces between their bottom teeth are spaced out, so then you can actually see the skin. They have speech problems, big speech problems, because the tongue can't raise high enough, so they can't pronounce a lot of letters. So like T, D, Z, S, TH, N, and L, like they just can't say them that well because their tongue doesn't go high enough. They also have personal and social problems. They can't clean food from their teeth. Like most people, if you got something stuck back there, you'll take your tongue and reach back there and get it. Well, they can't. And because it's connected so close to the bottom, they have a lisp almost where they can't understand. So peers will make fun of them. So that would be the social problem. So the lingual frenulum separates before birth, allowing free motion. When tongue-tied, it remains attached to the bottom of the tongue. It is actually more common in boys than it is in girls. Now that we've talked about the warning sign, let's move on to the next thing about it. What can be done about it? So what can be done about it? Do they grow out of it? Do they have to have surgeries? Well, a lot of times it's overlooked And I can be a case of one, my son was overlooked for a month before they found out, before I had said something. But there's a couple of things you can do. First, if you think that your kid or your grandkid or someone in your family has it, you should probably bring them in to the doctor for a second opinion, and then there they can go with treatment. Some doctors leave it alone and hope it just kind of grows with them, but a lot just fix it right away. And there's two kinds of procedures that they perform. The one is frenectomy, which is done right in the office. It's simple. They just clip the tongue and stick gauze under it and send you out of the way. That's actually what they did with my son. Then there's frenuloplasty, which is surgical, and then they add dissolving stitches to the bottom to help keep it. And the frenuloplasty is more often for people that this piece of skin is actually thicker, so that's where they would have to have stitches. Now that we have talked about the type of symptoms, the medical procedures, let's explore the final main point, the aftercare. Tongue exercises, as soon as one gets clipped, they recommend tongue exercises. So they recommended like making sure the baby's sucking on a pacifier a lot, just because it's going to keep their tongue moving. Because if they don't keep their tongue moving, it actually results in a lot of scarring. And then if it does scar, sometimes it can reattach itself, and then they have to go through the procedures again and have it reclipped. And that's no fun for a mom, a baby, nobody. So today I talked about the different types of signs of tongue-tied, what to do if expected in the aftercare. I hope today that I've given you guys enough information about it, and if you see someone, your own kids, your own family members, that you'll be like, hey, your baby's tongue-tied, you should bring them in. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
So what did you crying a lot have to do with baby tongue?
No, I was crying because I just got my tongue snipped and I had stitches. So the doctor was like, hey, hear that baby crying? That's yours. But my mom didn't even know what was going on.
So they just took it out?
That was back in '86. And my son was born in 2010, and they just did it right there in the office, and we went home right after. Any other questions? Yes.
So like how your son, when he was a month old, do they have to like, if you were older, do you have to eat like certain foods? Or if they clipped it just right there in the office, can you eat like normally?
Like, are you saying for when my son was?
Yeah, like.
Yep, he went right back to bottle feeding, and they actually told me don't let him not move his tongue, like, so I was like constantly putting in a pacifier and such.
So it sounded like sometimes they don't actually do that right away. So.
Because it gets overlooked a lot.
Oh, okay. But if they then were to find it later, this would be the way they would deal with it? Or is it harder the longer you go?
Yeah, they probably wouldn't clip you unless, if you're 5 and under, but they say a lot of people it'll stretch as they get older, and people just adapt to it.
Did you talk about this in a mini speech?
No.
Man, I heard this topic, not the whole speech, but I just heard a very brief something about this. It couldn't have been 2 months ago. Strange, never heard about it in my life. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.